Well, hello everyone. It is me, Jackie Wilson, and thank you very much for joining in today for another episode of What? Living Life on Your Terms. And so I'm going to be your host today. I'm a life coach, and today we're just going to jump right in, and we're going to be talking about a topic that I know affected me, and I'm sure it affected a lot of other women that are going to watch this video. It's actually called postpartum depression. I experienced that with my second child, not with my first daughter, but with my second one. I experienced that. Let me just share with you, well, let me take that back. I experienced it with my first child, but it was different. It didn't last as long because I just thought about my first child was actually born colicky. So I did experience a form of postpartum depression. It wasn't as long as with my second child. So I have to just backpedal with that and just be honest about it. So what I want to share with you guys today is what is postpartum depression. And I'm going to share with you all some of what I've gone through, how I've experienced postpartum depression, okay? So now postpartum depression, I have my notes here just to kind of help me along the way. Postpartum depression is something that it used to be called the baby blues. For a long time, people were calling it that way, the baby blues. You can even get baby blues in the beginning of your pregnancy and during your pregnancy. But it's mostly, you find it more common after you have your baby. And, you know, because your body's going through all different types of hormonal, ups and downs, just taking you like a roller coaster after you have a baby. Even when you're pregnant, you're going through a lot with your hormones. And so after that, you figure your hormones just crash. And so you had the baby, and then your hormones just crash. So it's like you figure they're all up here because you're carrying the baby. After you have the baby, they just, bam, just collapse. And so you're like, what is going on? So your body has just shut down basically, and you're going through like a lot of emotional stuff after you've had a baby because of your hormones just dropping down, okay? The level just like shoots down extremely low. And so that's why women go through having the baby blues, is what they were calling it for a long time, until they really start getting more research and understanding about it. And then they can understand and separate the two, that there is a form of baby blues that individuals go through, but then there's also the long term that lasts. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about today, which is postpartum depression. Okay. So what is that? I mean, we're so excited about having the baby, and then after we have the baby, we go through the baby blues and longer than that, okay? Postpartum depression. So it's different signs and symptoms of depression after childbirth. That's basically what it is, okay? It's like I said, because of the hormone decrease, it's like your body's going through so many different changes. So now let me just kind of separate what the baby blues symptoms are, okay? So now baby blues, these are the signs and the symptoms that people go through, that women go through with baby blues. They have mood swings, anxiety, sadness, irritability, feeling overwhelmed, crying, reduced concentration, appetite, you lose your appetite, or maybe you eat more than what you would want to eat. And then you also have trouble sleeping, okay? So I know for me, I dealt with the mood swings. I dealt with anxiety. I was irritable. I felt very overwhelmed. There was days I was crying because I couldn't sleep. My baby couldn't sleep because after I had her, my second child, she was born sick. So now with my first child, I went through some stress because I was, working a lot of hours prior to having my daughter. And so I was dealing with some stress from that. And so I ended up staying sick a little bit, not the whole pregnancy, but just a little bit. And then my daughter ended up, after I had her, she was born colicky, okay? And so the doctor told me, change her milk, and I wanted to breastfeed, and, it didn't seem like that was working. So over time, I had to eventually change the type of baby formula that I was giving her. And I wasn't able to really enjoy breastfeeding because of, her being colicky. So it was different things that I needed to change, and she had to go through some changing too as a new baby, coming into this world. And looking for me to take care of her. So, those were some changes that I had to make. And so that's why I said I did deal with some parts of, going through baby blues in terms of the moods, the anxiety, the dealing with the irritability, not sleeping. I dealt with that. But whereas with the second child, that was on a whole nother level because of the stress that I was going through. I was in an abusive marriage, and more mental, emotional, psychological abuse that I was going through, and I didn't know. So it was a lot of stress and anxiety and worry, and why can't we get along? Why are we arguing? Why this and why that? So it was a lot of worry, a lot of stress and depression that I was under. So even during my pregnancy, I stayed sick the entire 9 months of my pregnancy. So after, it was like everything I ate, it just upset my stomach. I didn't throw up or anything, but it just didn't settle right on my stomach. So I stayed sick the whole time. And after I had her, she was born with a bad case of acid reflux. She had what they call GERD. So I had to deal with her being sick, dealing with my depression that was there before I was pregnant, right? Then I'm dealing with the postpartum depression, and then I'm dealing with her. Okay, so it was a lot. So I've cried a lot of days. I cried because I couldn't go to sleep, cried because she wouldn't go to sleep. I dealt with, not being able to concentrate. There were days that, I couldn't focus on things that I needed to do. And, it was like sometimes my body would just be on autopilot. So I dealt with a lot and couldn't sleep and couldn't eat. It was a lot of different things. So when we talk about postpartum depression and baby blues, it's real. Okay, and I want you guys to know that it is definitely real. So if you are in a relationship with someone and this person is pregnant, get prepared. You need to be paying attention to what they're doing now and how they're reacting now, because there's different forms that our bodies go through when we're pregnant, and then it goes through another set of forms after, different behaviors after we have the baby. We go through some different changes. Okay, so now with everything that I just shared with you in terms of baby blues, now let me just kind of put a little twist on this as far as with postpartum depression. So postpartum depression may be mistaken for baby blues at first. However, but the signs and symptoms last longer. Okay, and they can eventually interfere with your ability to take care of your child because of what you're dealing with. Okay, with the depression, and it can go unnoticed, and it can be misdiagnosed like, oh, she's just dealing with she's just dealing with baby blues, and they won't say it's postpartum depression. Okay, but your body is going to react a different way. Your mind is going to be reacting a different way, and let me just show you. So on here it says you're depressed, mood, you're in a depressed mood. It's severe mood swings, okay? You're excessive crying. I dealt with that. I dealt with the mood swings. Difficulty bonding with your baby. Now, I didn't have a problem with bonding with her, but however, it would just bother me to just sit and look at her, and she would just cry because I couldn't help her and I didn't know what was going on with her. They couldn't check her until she was 6 months old. So you figure for 6 months of her life, we didn't know what was going on with her. She's crying, I'm crying, can't sleep. Neither one of us sleeping, okay? And when I was married, he wasn't really helping, so everything fell on me to take care of her, right? And then I had another daughter to take care of too. So you figure that was a lot of stress, a lot of depression that I was going through and trying to take care of 2 kids and maintain a marriage, right? And deal with someone that's not really being supportive. So it can really take a toll on you. It can also cause you to withdraw from your family and friends because you're dealing with depression, right? You can also lose your appetite, or you can eat more than what you normally would eat. Okay, so overeating. Then also you can have insomnia. I dealt with that during my after I had her, trying to take care of her because she wasn't sleeping, I couldn't sleep. Then there were days where I would just sleep longer during the morning time. If she would sleep, I would just take advantage of that. And then I would get up and I would be lethargic, and then have to try to get myself together and get my daughter off to school. And if the little one was still asleep, I'd get the older one off to school and go back and lay down, if I didn't have to drive anybody that morning. So I tried to do everything I could to get as much sleep as I could. But like they say, you can't recoup sleep, right? It's gone. Either you get it or you don't, right? Okay, so now it also says overwhelming feeling fatigue or loss of energy. I felt that way too. Reduced interest and pleasure in activities. That was me. Irritable and angry. Dealt with that too. Fear that you're not a good mother. I talked to myself and said that I wasn't a good mom because I couldn't help her. I felt helpless. It also says you're hopeless because you can't help your baby, right? So you deal with that. You also feelings of worthlessness and shame and guilt or inadequacy. Diminished ability to think clearly. Okay, concentrate on making decisions. A restlessness, I dealt with that. I dealt with the not being concentrated. Couldn't concentrate on one thing. Couldn't make good decisions. I was doing had all kinds of thoughts and stuff, and my mind was just racing all over the place. I dealt with a lot of anxiety. Here it is right here. Deal with panic attacks. You deal with thoughts of harming yourself or the baby. Now I didn't have either one of those thoughts, which was a great thing for me, especially finding out that was part of it, because I didn't know all of what I was going through at the time until after I talked to my doctor. And they decided that she was 6 months old and they can check her. But you figure for the first 6 months, I was calling saying, hey, something's wrong with this baby. Can you check? She won't sleep. Is this, is that? And the doctor's telling me, try this, try that, hold her up. Don't let her lay down. And, just all kinds of things without really actually being able to give her the check that she needed, the full body check that she needed. Okay. And so because he wasn't able to do that, we both had to suffer for those 6 months before he could tell me, send her to have a test to find out what actually is wrong with her. So she had to go have an upper GI test in order to find out what was wrong with her, right? At 6 months old. So they don't want to put them through radiation before then, but she had to do it because we didn't know what was going on with her. And in the beginning, I think my doctor didn't believe me. And that's how I felt. I was frustrated because he didn't believe me. And then I found out later he didn't. He thought something was wrong with me. But then he realized what I was telling him. He said he talked to another colleague and found out that that's what I was dealing with was postpartum depression. And the baby was really sick, okay? So it was really something to go through that. And I'm glad that I experienced it, because now I'm able to help other people that have dealt with it or that may be in that situation and don't even know. So sometimes it's good when you go through things and you can turn around and help somebody else. That makes me feel good to be able to do that. So we've talked about in terms of, I've given you all of the different, signs and behaviors of postpartum depression, right? Now let me just kind of give you another side of that. Postpartum depression can turn into what's called postpartum psychosis, which means that's on a whole nother level of the stress. It's rare that this condition happens, but it can happen, okay? And in this situation, let me back up a little bit, because for the postpartum depression, that can actually last up to a few weeks, or it can go into months, and it can even go into a year or so after you've had your baby. You're dealing with the effects of postpartum depression, okay? So now with this one, for the postpartum psychosis, that one can last for a long period of time as well. But this one is more on a way where you're confused, you're dealing with disorientation, you're obsessed with the thoughts about your baby, hallucinating, delusional, dealing with sleep disturbance, excessive energy and agitation, paranoid, attempts to harm the baby. Okay, so these situations do happen. And if you think back to some of these parents that have drowned their children as a result of actually after having their children, and they, inflicted harm and danger on their children, a lot of times we didn't know that that's what it could have been that parent was dealing with. Okay, so instead of doctors researching and to find out if that's what that parent was dealing with, they would just put them in jail and lock them up, and that'd be the end of it, and just say this was a bad mom and not give her the help that she needed, right? And there were cases where women had tried to get help, had been in therapy, and they just were not able to move forward, and they ended up harming their children, and they ended up in jail, okay? Or maybe they took their own life as a result of that. So when you know someone has just recently had a baby, just check in with that person, because you never know, they could actually be dealing with a form of postpartum depression. And the last thing that they would need is to be by themselves with that child and not be taking care of that child, or to feel any of the symptoms and behaviors of what I just told you that they're feeling, and they feel like they're by themselves. So just do a wellness check for someone that that just recently had a baby. Anyone that has a baby under the age of 2, especially during this time of the pandemic, please reach out to those individuals just to see how they're doing, to see if maybe they need a break, and see if you can maybe go by and pick them up or something, and spend time with them, or go pick up the children and give that person time to just have a break. You just never know how much of a help that can be for you to go over and share your time, with that individual, and just go and give them a break, for even if it's for an hour, to just be able to take the children away and give them that time. Especially if they have other children and you've just had a little one, then take the little one and give them time to spend with the other children, or take the other children and give them time to spend with the little one, but at least give them a little break in between the time of what we're dealing with this pandemic, and all of the quarantines that we have, and the restrictions of what we can't do and what we can do. And that is affecting a lot of people. And so I want you to just look out for those individuals, do a wellness check with someone. I'm going to drop into the feed of this video, some resource information for individuals that are dealing with stress, individuals that are dealing with postpartum depression, and that they can reach out to a crisis helpline in order to help them, to move forward through what they're going through, what they're experiencing. I know for myself, it was very, very challenging going through that. It was very difficult to not know what you're facing, and you can't really explain to somebody what you're going through, but it's happening on a day-to-day basis, and you just don't know how to explain it to somebody, especially because you don't want nobody to think something's wrong with you, right? And then you have a sick child that you're trying to take care of. So with that being said, I hope I've shared some great information with you all. Continue to keep watching the videos. Continue to subscribe to the video, right? It's somewhere down here. Just subscribe to it, so that way you can continue to keep seeing the content that I have for you. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next video, for you to do what? Live life on your terms. And with that being said, have a great night. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.